Hello everybody, so I'm George from Ireland. Anyway, welcome to London. Here I am in Mayfair, this ultra exclusive district of London. So too much sunlight, you can see okay. And behind me is the door of Avonfield House, and that is where Mian Mohammed Nawaz Sharif lives, his residence in London. Now he doesn't have the whole building, he's got part of this building. Maybe I'll go somewhere a bit more shaded. Yeah, into the doorway of somebody else's house. You can see what the building is like. So how many floors is that? Is that 8 floors, 9 floors? And I don't know which floor he's on. But anyway, so Nawaz Sharif is almost as old as Pakistan. He's born in 1949 in Lahore, if I got that right. So he is Punjabi. I think one of his parents actually moved from the East Punjab, i.e. today's India. So they are Sunni Muslims, his family. And he grew up in Lahore. His family was a substantial business family. And he was educated there, went to university in Pakistan, and went into business straight away, and joined the Pakistan Muslim League, the party which of course founded Pakistan, but shortly after its foundation that party dissolved or split up into various parties, and there were military governments of Pakistan, but I won't tell the whole story. But by the 1980s he was a very, well, even the late 70s, he was prominent in the Muslim League. He was a vociferous supporter of Muhammad Zia al-Haq, who was the chief martial law administrator of Pakistan, I think subsequently president, because Zia al-Haq, he ruled the country from 1977 to 1988. And then in 1979, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was hanged at Rawalpindi jail for organizing the murder of a political opponent. Now, there are many who say that actually that was one of the few murders that Bhutto did not authorize. Nevertheless, the former Prime Minister Z.A. Bhutto paid with his life for that. The corpse was returned to his family for namaz-e-janaza, and this was a sort of break with the British penal code that Pakistan had inherited, because in the United Kingdom when people were executed, the corpse was buried within the prison walls, was not returned to the family for obsequies, and they were not permitted to be present at the funeral. But anyway, he was buried at his ancestral village of Garshi Khuda Bakhsh Bhutto, and I've been to the mausoleum. But they say that Nawaz Sharif, he jubilated the execution of Bhutto, and indeed handed out sweets to help people celebrate it. So then, 1988, Benazir Bhutto became Prime Minister, but she fell after about 2 years, and Nawaz Sharif came as Prime Minister for the first time, 1990 to 93. Then he was out for a while. He came back in about 97, served until 99. Then there was that military coup early in October 1999, carried out by General Pervez Musharraf, who was the Army Chief of Staff. In the Kargil War that summer in Jammu and Kashmir, which had not been particularly successful for Pakistan to some extent. Was there a blame game going on? Nawaz Sharif trying to exculpate himself, lay the blame on Musharraf, and Musharraf saying that he wasn't sufficiently backed up by the civilian government and so on. So Musharraf had been on a visit to Sri Lanka. His plane was flying back to Pakistan. I've read his autobiography claiming that Pakistani airspace was closed to the plane, as it wasn't going to have to crash, it wasn't going to be allowed to land anywhere, or indeed was going to be forced to land in India, in which case the Chief of Army Staff would fall into enemy hands. That couldn't be a good thing for Pakistan. Or maybe then he could accuse Musharraf of defecting or surrendering or something like that. But anyway, Musharraf from the plane managed to contact his subordinates on the ground, who seized the airport, and the plane landed safely. They had very little fuel left, and because if the plane had crashed, that would have killed not just Musharraf but about 200 people on board, mostly Pakistani civilians. So Nawaz Sharif was overthrown. He was charged with various crimes. He could have faced the death penalty. He was jailed for a while, but then it was agreed to exile him to Saudi Arabia. Who was later with that lady who was allowed out of Saudi Arabia, came to live in London. So he's got a very cordial relationship with the Saudi Arabian royal family. His granddaughter's married into it, which is highly unusual. They tend to only marry other Saudi Arabians. So he has a very extensive property empire, him, his younger brother Shahbaz, and various other members of the family. So then in 2019, Tehreek-e-Insaf, the movement for justice, they were swept to office. They won their very first election. They'd been founded in 1996, and the 97 election, Pakistan had not won a single seat in the National Assembly, led by Imran Khan, the former captain of the cricket team. And after Islam, cricket's the most popular thing in Pakistan. So you'd think as a national hero who would have done well. But he performed abysmally at first. Nevertheless, he persevered. Anybody else would have thrown in the towel, but his perseverance paid off. And I think it's, yeah, he initially attend Aitchison College in Pakistan, where the motto is perseverance commands success. So Imran Khan became Prime Minister, and various criminal cases were opened against Nawaz Sharif. He was accused of peculation, so he was charged with that, but the court granted him 6 weeks bail to come here to London for medical treatment. When his bail expired, he did not return. He's been here ever since, so that's about 3 years ago. But now his brother's just become Prime Minister, so there have been furious protests here between supporters of Tehreek-e-Insaf, who are miffed that the National Assembly voted no confidence in Imran Khan, and don't like the way he was sacked as Prime Minister by the President, and know the fact that Nawaz Sharif's younger brother is now Prime Minister. But the first pair of brothers to be Prime Minister of any South Asian country, or for that matter any country in the world that I can think of. And there are Pakistan Muslim League supporters who came here to vocalise their support and admiration for Nawaz Sharif. So I don't know if he's in there right now. So that's it. So he stays safe here, but he owns extensive property here. His wife has been rather indisposed. So Nawaz Sharif has been the dominant figure in Pakistani politics for over 30 years. And though he's not the leader of the Pakistan Muslim League, he's still very much a mogul of it. They're more conservative in some ways, the Pakistan Muslim League. They have a very cordial relationship with China, but don't expect them to denounce China over the treatment of the Uyghurs, as well as with the Saudi Arabians. Obviously, not such a good relationship with India, for instance. Fairly good relationship with the Taliban now, who are ruling Afghanistan. But obviously, they're not the most Islamic fundamentalist party. That would be Jamaat-e-Islami. Some people think that Nawaz Sharif isn't sufficiently religious. He watches films, he likes music and so on, things which real reactionists would say are un-Islamic. So that's him. And anyway, they've managed to team up with the Pakistan People's Party, the PPP, which was founded by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and its current chairman is Bilal Bhutto Zardari. So they used to be deadly foes, the two parties, but they managed to set aside their differences and to form a coalition to work for the betterment of the people, work in the national interest, because they're both against Tehreek-e-Insaf. So those are the three major parties, the only ones that really can be called national. Well, I know there's Jamaat-e-Islami, but that's only got a substantial following, really, on Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the frontier, northwest frontier province, as they previously called it. Of course, Tehreek-e-Insaf is quite strong there as well, because that's where Imran Khan comes from. But the Muslim League is strongest in the Punjab, where Nawaz Sharif comes from. About 40% of the population is Punjabi. But they do have some supporters in other provinces. Likewise, the PPP is strongest in Sindh, but yes, it has some support in other provinces. And there's obviously the MQM, the Mohajir Qawmi movement, as in for those who fled from India, but that's mostly based in Karachi. Right, so thank you so much for watching my video and seeing where Nawaz Sharif has gone. I would very much like to interview him. What a fascinating figure, and I think we can't write his political obituary yet. He's still a substantial figure in Pakistani politics. Toodaloo.